Hello everybody, welcome to Gregsbeerreviews today. Let's take a walk and go see what's in the fridge today. Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. Hopefully this is going to be a treat. This is Green Man's Brewery, None More Black. And I visited this brewery several years ago, and it was a fairly small operation. And they didn't have this particular beer then, but when I heard from other people that the brewery's expanded a little bit, and they're making some other beers and some tasty beers. What I had when I was down in Asheville, and they're out of Asheville, North Carolina, and there's a lot of great breweries down there to visit. If you're wanting to go down there, or if you're in that area, you probably already know that there's a lot of breweries down there. Asheville Brewing, Highland, Green Man. I mean, there's probably 6 or 7, 8, 10 different breweries down there. Now Sierra Nevada's down in that vicinity. There are a lot of great breweries. Oscar Blues is down there. A lot of great places to see. They have brew tours going on down there where you can get on the bus, buy a ticket and get on the bus, and they'll take you around to the different breweries and let you sample some of their beers. Very nice. And they just started the brew tour here in Roanoke, because Roanoke is getting more and more breweries. We've got probably 7 or 8 within a 50-mile radius of Roanoke, and they are producing some very tasty stuff. So if you're in the Roanoke area, you can check out Chaos Mountain, Big Lick, Soaring Ridge, Chaos Mountain, Parkway Brewing. I mean, there are so many great places to go visit, and a lot of times they'll have bands playing and food trucks there, and Roanoke's becoming a big hit with craft brewers, and several of these guys are in the brew clubs, and they decided to venture out and do their own brewing. It's pretty nice. Craft beer's catching on, guys. You need to grab a hold and get on that bandwagon and check out some of this, especially if you're drinking the macro lagers, that fizzy yellow swill. You're going to find out these beers have a lot more taste, and it's a growing thing. It used to be, it's a lot like what the wine thing was 10 years ago. Everybody was getting on the wine bandwagon and trying out a lot of local wineries and stuff. And now the craft beer thing is catching on, and a lot of the brewers are putting together food trucks coming out there to the breweries, and bands playing and stuff. So it's a pretty nice thing. It's a win-win for all of us craft beer drinkers. So let's get on with this one. Like I said, this is Green Man's None More Black, and what that is, it says here on Rate Beer that it is an imperial stout, and it's not. It's an American black ale. It's not a stout, guys. It is a dark beer, but to me, more and more, Rate Beer has the category wrong. I mean, over the last 2 weeks, 3 or 4 of the beers they've listed as a strong ale or an imperial stout or something else, and that's not what the beer is. So I don't know where they're getting their information from, but yeah, about 75% they're correct, and the other 25% they're incorrect. They're wrong. This is not an imperial stout. This is an American black ale, which is similar to a black IPA or a black pale ale. We don't know how. I don't know how hoppy this beer is going to be, whether it's an IPA or whether it's a pale ale. We're going to find out here in just a minute or two, after I quit flapping my gums. and see what this beer brings to the table, because I have not had this beer before. So, and this is a big bottle too. This is a great big bottle. Commercial description on this one. This is an 8.2%er according to Rate Beer. Let me see what the bottle says. Yes, 8.2%. So they got that part right, but I don't think it's going to be a stout. Now I might be wrong, and if it is, I'll apologize and say this is a stout. But I got a feeling it's going to be a black ale. Commercial description is just like what's written on the bottle here. Commercial description says, Norwegian brewers have an old tradition of brewing a beer and storing it so if they passed away during the year, there would be a beer for their funeral. If they didn't die, they would drink it in celebration. Well, that's a good thing to do. I mean, I'm going to brew this, and if I pass away, y'all have this at my funeral, and if I don't pass away, we'll have a big party, and we'll all drink it. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. That's a good plan. Our specialty brewer, Mike, is following this tradition with this pitch black strong ale aged for 12 months in whiskey barrels. So this has been aged in whiskey barrels, and they're calling it a strong ale. So there are some fine lines between strong ale, black ale. So, I mean, I don't think they're official categories in the beer judging categories. So the brewers are doing all kind of things out of the box and mixing this and doing this style, and a lot of them are not recognized styles, but they will be. They will be. The beer judging committee will eventually see, well, this is we've been doing this for 3, 4, 5 years, and I think we ought to add this to the style, and then they'll add the notes. So this is what this beer should, the notes on this beer should be, and you'll get this taste and that taste and all that. So as of right now, it's not an official style. It says here, Mike made it through another year, so the public gets to enjoy this beer that is so black that if you ask how much more black it could be, the answer is none. None more black. And that's the name of the beer, None More Black. Alright, don't think there's anything else we need to talk about. I don't have the IBUs, just have the ABV at 8.2%. So, food pairings for this beer. Says here, none yet, because it's not official recognized style in the beer judging categories. But it will come. It will come. Don't know how soon, but it will come, just like a black IPA and a black ale, and this is a black strong ale. So they're changing everything up. The brewers are, and say we'll do a strong ale and we'll add some darker malt and it'll be a black strong ale, or we'll do an IPA and we'll add some darker malt and it'll be a black IPA or a pale ale. I mean, it's just off. They've let the cat out of the bag, if you will, and the breweries and the brewers are going wild with this. I mean, let's do this and we'll add that and make it this, or we'll do this and add that and make it this. And they're not officially recognized styles, but they're different, and that's what the whole thing is about, to do different things and experiment and go out of the box. And a lot of big breweries do that too. Dogfish and Stone and all the big breweries do this. I mean, Three Floyds, I mean, they all go out of the box just to try something different, to brew something different. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Let's do something different, something nobody else has done. Yeah. All right. Says here, the glassware pint, becker, Nonic, tumbler, mug, Stein, Sardell, or oversized wine glass. I got my favorite glass, the Solomon beer glass, and not recommended for extended cellaring unless ABV exceeds the standard range. Well, this is an 8.2, and it does exceed that range. So, unless it's a hop-forward beer where the hops are going to fade, you may be able to cellar this beer. So let's find out what this beer is all about, guys. If I can get to cap off of this thing, and they got a real nice, and as you see the label here, this is the Green Man's basic logo, and it's got it on the cap. Got a real nice green man. Looks like a guy that's got all kind of leaves. I don't know if it's supposed to be hops or vines growing out of his head, but very nice. We will end up with this one on the fridge downstairs. And I've had all you guys has bottle openers and stuff. Well, how do you do that? Flip and flop. It's not a hard thing to do, guys. I had guys say, you need to teach me that. This is the last opener that I have. I'm getting ready to order another batch. I got a yellow one. If you need a yellow one, give me a shout. I've had some people say, yeah, I want to buy that one, but as far as it goes, they don't send any money or check or whatever. So, still here. If you need a yellow opener, let me know. And to do what I do, guys, it's not a complicated thing. And there are videos, if you Google it, how to do one of these openers. And all I do is grab it from the side and I flip it. So what you do is you grab it, you flip it, and then you spin it back. And in reverse operation to close it. So if you're doing it in slow motion, you're just flipping it over, spinning it. And you grab it when it comes back open. Not a very hard thing to do. It took me, I watched the video and in 5 minutes I had it. It's not hard. That's all it is to it. That's all I know how to do with it. There are people that do all kind of tricks and spinning. Homie, don't play that. I mean, that's the only trick I know, and I use it here on the beer reviews to open the beers. That's all it is to it, guys. There's my little tutorial. Alright, let's get this one. This is a big bottle. Ooh, it's black coming out of here. It does look like a stout. Wow, very nice. Big bottle. I don't remember what I paid for it. I don't think it was super cheap. This is probably, the bottle this size, this is probably in the $10 to $15 range for a bottle this size. About a finger of head, maybe just a tad more. Very creamy looking. It looks exactly like a stout. They brewed this to be black, and it is black. Let's get it over to the light. Alright guys, into the light. It is black. I mean, it does look like a stout. A lot of the black IPAs and the blacker beers that are not porters and stouts have a lot of little red ruby tinges around the glass, especially when you get into the small part of the glass. But this one is pitch black, so they've used a lot of dark malt to make this beer this dark. Let's get a nose on this one. Wow, I am getting that whiskey influence on this, where they've aged it in the whiskey barrels for a whole year. And that's what makes these beers a little more pricey. When they put them in a barrel and they set them aside, they're taking up warehouse space, they're taking up brewery space, and they sit there that long. A lot of them don't keep them in there that long. They'll keep them in there 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 months, and then they'll put them in the bottles and send them on. But a lot of the other ones, like the Green Man has done on this one, they sit there for an entire year in that barrel. And that lets that whiskey or bourbon or whatever barrel that they've done age this beer in, that whiskey influences the beer. It comes out into the beer. You smell it, you taste it. I'm getting it. The whiskey is there, guys. It is basically overpowering everything, especially when they age it in a barrel for that long a time. You get the big whiskey or bourbon notes in the aromas, and a lot of times in the taste too. I'm getting whiskey, some heavily roasted dark malt, maybe some hints of coffee, and those will come out more as it warms up. It's right out of the fridge at 40 degrees. Oh, it's got a wonderful aroma. Wonderful aroma. Let's give it a taste. I can't wait to dive in. Cheers, everybody. Wow. Big whiskey aroma in the taste and the nose. It's only an 8.2%, but it drinks bigger than that because it's been in that. It's like, you know, I mean, you could take a 4 or 5% and put it in a whiskey barrel for a year, and it's going to taste a little heavier and a little thicker and a little more boozier than your typical beer would be. It's not put in that kind of barrel because it's getting those influences. Because most of your whiskeys are a lot more than 3, 4, 5, 6, even 10%. Most of the whiskeys the ABV is up there just a little bit, and it's drawing that out of the wood inside that barrel. And it's big time on this beer. Big time. Definitely getting the alcohol. Not getting a huge hopping characteristics on this one. So this one would probably be a good candidate to cellar. 2, 3, 5, 8.2%. I don't know if I'd go more than 10 years on an 8.2%er, but you could probably sell this, and it's going to get more complex, just like it does in the barrel. As it sits there and it works in the bottle, you're going to get maybe a little more coffee, maybe a little more chocolate. I mean, things will come together the longer it sits in that bottle. Especially if it's not something that's hop forward where the hops are going to fade and they're wanting you to taste that hops right off the bat. This does not taste like that. So this would be a prime candidate to cellar if you so choose or so desire. Wow. The whiskey is just off the chain, guys. It is off the chain on this beer. This drink's like a 9, 10, 11, even 12%er. Because it's been in that whiskey barrel that long. Rich roasted malt, hints of coffee, hints of tobacco, hints of some dark fruit, maybe even some licorice in there, maybe some bittersweet chocolate. But it's right out of the fridge, and it's hard for me to detect a lot of that when it's that cold. So we're going to let it warm up. And see what we end up with after it comes up to room temperature here in about 45 minutes or so. And share the other half of this bottle. Big bottle. Big. It looks like a wine bottle, guys. It's probably a 750 milliliter. It's pretty big. I don't think it has it written on here, but it may. I don't see it. And right on the top of the label says drink now or age for later. So a good candidate for aging to let those flavors meld together and become a little more complex over time. So, but I was anxious to get my lips and my gums on it, so we decided to go ahead and do it. And like I said, I don't think it has a date on it anywhere. I'd be surprised if it did, and I'll take a closer look at it when I come back with a final chug. But I'm going to sip on it and maybe puff on a nice, probably going to fire up a punch bare knuckle to go with this. Some nice woody notes on that, little peppery, very nice cigar, a very rich cigar to go with a nice, rich, tasty beer like this, especially a dark beer like this. I'll be right back. Alright guys, I'm back. Got just a little left. Been sipping on this about 45 minutes. It's up to room temperature. Been smoking a nice bare knuckle cigar to go with this. Very nice combination, if I do say so myself. The only plus I've got about this beer, even though it's an 8.2 and it's going to keep for many years, probably up to 10 anyway, is they don't put a year on it. They don't put a vintage of when it was put in the bottle. Would like to see that. I mean, it's not detrimental to the beer because it will keep for a while, but I would just like to see them, put 2014, 2015 on the label somewhere, or even on the bottle. I looked at the bottle pretty closely. If it's on there, I can't see it. I looked pretty closely and I did not see any kind of year on it anyway. They could put it just as easily 2014 or 2015 right on the label here somewhere, especially for something that's going to be barrel aged. More than likely it's a one of, and they only did it once, and they may do it again in future years, but kind of information that we would like to see on there. This is a 2015 edition. So that's the only plus I've got about this beer. Other than that, it's pretty damn tasty. Let's do the final chug on this one. nice. Very, very nice. Rich, almost to the burnt caramel, malty, toffee, molasses. Maybe some hints of some cocoa and some dark fruit in there, plums, dates, raisins, figs, licorice. Very, very nice. I mean, it's almost to the stout category. It would be very hard blindfolded to taste this, even though it does have a nice hop presence to it. Not overly hoppy, but just enough to balance out the sweetness of all that malt they've used to make an 8.2%. And then they stick it in that whiskey barrel for a whole year. So a lot of those flavors get muddied up a little bit. But it doesn't have that rich, thick cocoa or bittersweet chocolate like a stout has. And it doesn't have that, I don't know, it would be really hard to just think. They could very easily call this a stout. And like I said, matter of fact, Great Beer is calling this an imperial stout, whereas Beer Advocate is calling it an American black ale. But once it goes in those bourbon barrels and sets for a whole year, a whole lot of things start going on with the beer. But it doesn't have it doesn't have the mouthfeel that a stout would have. It's a little thinner, to me. It's in my opinion, though, that a stout normally has. It's a little bit thinner, and it doesn't have that rich cocoa taste, and it doesn't have quite the essence that a typical stout has. It's just a little bit thinner, but still just as tasty, being in the whiskey barrels for a whole year. It would be very hard as a novice to determine, if you were blindfolded, if you had a stout in a glass. And a lot of these brewers can call it whatever they want to call it. I mean, if it pours as black as this does, I mean, they can say, well, this is a stout. And not a lot of people could tell the difference. But to me, it's just a little thinner than a typical stout would be. But it is very, very tasty. And I've tasted stouts that were a little on the thin side, especially your English style, that are a little thinner than the American style. And I'm not tasting a lot of rich chocolate, like if they use lactose or something like that in the brewing process. So very tasty. Very, very, very tasty. Other than having the vintage on the bottle somewhere of the year it was put in the bottle, that's the only fuss I've got about this beer. Other than that, it's pretty freaking tasty. Guys, I do think it's an A beer. I do think it is definitely an A beer. If it had a vintage on it, I would probably give it to 9 out of 10, but it doesn't have a vintage on it. I don't know when it was put in the bottle. It seems to me that they could write that on that label somewhere, that it is a 2014 or 2015 edition of this beer. Just my opinion. I mean, Green Man does some really tasty beers. Like I said, it's been about 3 years since I've been down there, and they didn't have this beer there then. So this is to me, it's a new offering, and I don't know if it's a 2013 edition or a 2014 edition or a 2015 edition. More than likely it's a 2015 edition, but I would like to see that on the label somewhere. It's just my OCD. I would like to see that vintage on there. So when you buy it, you go, oh yes, it's a 2015. I'm gonna get 2 of them. I'm gonna drink one now, and I'm gonna put one away, and see how it changes and mellows out over 2, 3, 5, even 10 years. And that way you know, you ain't got a piece of tape on it and say, I bought this in May of 2015 and all that. They can do that. They can do that. I mean, it's not that big a deal. Like I said, they probably only produced this one run of this beer and aged it in bourbon barrels. So the label should have that on there. In my opinion, it should have that on there. 2015 edition. But it does not. So it is what it is. Like I said, I do think it's an A beer. I'm going to give it to 8. If it had a vintage on it, I would probably give it to 9. So, and number two, Beer Advocate. Beer Advocate says it's 83, which is in the good range. I think the number is a little bit better than what they're giving it. I think if I was putting a numeric rating on this, it would probably be between a 90 and a 93. It's pretty damn tasty. I mean, I'm a sucker for these barrel aged beers. I mean, whether it's whiskey, rum, bourbon, or wine barrels, I really like the influence that those barrels give the beers. It kicks it up a notch to me. The other half loved this. She absolutely loved it, and she's a sucker for these barrel aged beers, just like I am. I mean, it kicks it up a notch. It adds a little bit more to the beer than just your typical run-of-the-mill black ales or stouts or whatever the style that the brewer wants to call it. But that's beside the point. Over to Rate Beer. Rate Beer says it's 93 overall, 44 in the style. 44 in the style, I don't know where they average these numbers out to get the style numbers and all that kind of stuff. That is way low to me. I think it fits the style pretty well. As far as I'm concerned, like I said, it's a 9 beer in an 8 bottle because it has no vintage as far as the year. Don't need the month, don't need the day, but I would like to see the year on these kind of beers. So. But again, these beers are a little more pricier than your typical beers are going to be because they have to put that whole version of what they brewed, depending on how much they brewed at one time, into the keg, into the barrels, however many barrels that takes, and then it sits, taking up space in the brewery or the warehouse, wherever they decide to store it, for a whole year, 12 months. So that makes the beer a little more pricier. So it is what it is. You will pay a little bit more for a barrel-aged beer. That's just the bottom line. That's just the bottom line because the space it takes up and the amount of barrels it takes to house those beers for that long a time. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. So with that being said, we got the numbers from everybody and the numbers from me. If you've had this one from Green Man Brewery, None More Black, aged in whiskey barrels for a whole year, let me know what you think. It's pretty damn tasty. I enjoyed it. Put the damn year on it, guys. Alright, that's all we got to say about this one. If you've had it, let me know what you think. And let's go see what's in the fridge tomorrow. See you then. Hope you can come back. We're going to walk into see what's in the fridge. See you, everybody.